this class. Okay, so first is electric current. So what exactly is electric current? It is the flow of electric charges through a conductor. That is called electric current. So this is flow of charges through a conductor. That is, you can say, qualitative definition of current. But what it is exactly, how are we going to quantify this? So quantitatively, this current in a conductor is nothing but direction of flow of charge, and it is defined as the amount of charge flowing across that area per unit time. So this is rate of flow of charge, right? So let the charge which passes through an area in time t to say t plus delta t. So time, suppose the time gap is delta t, and the charge which flows across that area, let that be equals to delta q. Then this I, or current, is given as rate of change of, or rate of flow of charge, that is delta q by delta t, right? And it is an instantaneous current. So if it is instantaneous, we will find its limit such that delta t tends to 0. And if I write it like this, then I is nothing but dq by dt. That is again rate of flow of charge. This is instantaneous rate of flow of charge, right? That is, charge must change, and the change in charge divided by change in time. Now, there are different types of current. When we say steady current, that means current whose amount or whose value does not changes, or whose magnitude does not changes. So that is actually that current whose rate of flow is fixed. So rate of flow is constant with time. With respect to time, it is constant. So here, that means what? Here I can write it just like q by t. So that is for steady current. So that is rate of flow of charge or current. Coming to its unit is, I think all of us know, it is 1 ampere, which is equals to 1 coulomb charge per unit of time, that is 1 second. So 1 ampere is actually equals to 1 coulomb per second. That is its unit. Ampere is one basis or basic SI unit. So in SI units, we have around 5 uh, uh, basic units. So ampere is one of them. And we'll also define this 1 ampere current in a different way when we'll study magnetism. That is later. Okay. Next is the conventional current and the electronic current. There is a difference between these two things. Current is flow. So what is electronic current and what is conventional current? So this electronic current, as the name itself suggests, it is the current or flow of electrons. So in a conductor, there will be these electrons, and these electrons will be flowing in some direction, right? So this is the direction of flow of electrons. this is the direction flow of electron, or this will be called electronic current. And if that is the case, these charges are electrons, so these are negative charges, right? So what happens due to that, when a negative charge will move from, suppose there is a negative charge here, it moved from here to here. Charge is what? Some particle will be there which will be negatively charged. So if electron moves from here to here, then later what will happen? Now this will be, actually the condition will be like this, that here there will be a positive charge and that negative charge will come here. The place where which actually suffered loss of electron will actually gain a positive charge. So what we are seeing here is that if electron is moving in this direction, then a positive charge is moving in this direction. So the direction of flow of positive charge is actually this, that it is moving in this direction. And this is our conventional current. So electronic current is flow of electrons, and conventional current is flow of positive charges. It is not like proton is moving, because negative charge is moving from one, I mean, in a direction. Positive charge will flow in the opposite direction. So that's what we mean by electronic current and conventional current. Okay, one more thing, it is a scalar quantity. That means on a junction, if I have situation like this, some current is coming from this junction, one is leaving, and this is also leaving. So suppose this is 5 amperes, this is 2 amperes, so this will be 3 amperes. Simple, it does not depend on the direction. Just like any normal scalar, here the same mathematics or arithmetic is applicable. So that is about introduction of electric current. Let's see a problem based on this. So this is a graph between time and current. It's given that this is 5 seconds, this is 10 seconds, and this point is corresponding to 5 amperes. So it shows a plot of current through the cross section of a wire over a time interval of 10 seconds, and current is in amperes. You have to find the amount of charge that flows through the wire. So the question is, you find the amount of charge. Now remember, we have studied differentiation and integration, and there we have seen that, and before that we have studied this, I is equals to dq by dt. So it implies that dq is equals to I dt. So total amount of charge is actually integration of dq, which is integration of I dt. And we know that this integration is what? This integration is nothing but the area under curve. So you just have to find the area. What all we have this, that this is 5, this is also 5, so this is also 5, this is also 5. So we have one rectangle and one triangle, so this area will be 5 into 5 divided by 2, that is 25 by 2, and this will be 5 into 5, that is 25, right? So total current, or sorry, total charge will be equals to 25 plus 25 by 2, that is 25 plus 12.5 or 37.5 coulombs. So that's how you can solve some questions which will be like this, which will be based on this. That is basic definition of current. Now, how do we maintain this steady current? Let's see that how to maintain steady current. That means what? The flow, the rate of flow should be steady or constant. How do we maintain that? So that is, you can see the analogy will be similar to the flow of water, or how a water flows in a circuit. It's not the electrical circuit. So you must have seen some fountains and all. So what happens there in that fountain is that there is a overhead tank, and from tank the water comes down to wherever you want to give you an impression that there is a fountain here. So that comes, and then this water will be collected. This water is collected in some other place, right? So this is where your water is getting collected. It is filled here. Now, if you want this flow of water to be steady, that is to not stop. So water is filled till here, till this level right now. I want this water flow to be continuous. So what will I have to do? I'll have to make an arrangement that once this is empty, I mean, what will happen here? It will keep on getting empty, and once it reaches this level, the flow or this fountain will actually stop. So in order to make it happen, or make this water, the flow of water continuous or steady, we have to do something. So this water which is getting collected here, so first thing is, instead of wasting this, try to come up with a closed path where this water which is being wasted here, that water is collected, and after getting collected here, it reaches this tank. And here I use a pipe and a pump to take this, which will lift this water and take it back to this height, or the overhead tank. So this is how we are going to maintain. So what we are going to do here, or what we have actually done here, is we have you can say something we have kept here which increases its potential. Here potential is mgh is equals to 0, because height is equals to 0. We lift it up using this pump. So this is a pump. What it does, it lifts it and brings it here. So here this mgh is not equals to 0. So what happened here? It changes the potential or potential energy, both. Who does it? This pump does it. So similar sort of thing we need to maintain a steady current as well in our electrical circuits. And what is that? That is actually called a cell. So in this circuit, we have current flowing, and if we want that current to flow, so when current flows through some, you can say any path or any conductor, if it flows, that conductor will offer some opposition to the current, and such conductor is called resistors, and the opposition is called resistance. So suppose if current wants to flow like this, just like we have seen in case of uh, water pump, there I must bring or include a pump like thing here, which should be able to pump charges. Such a pump is called a cell, or combination of such uh, cells are called battery. So what it does, it pumps the electrons now, I mean the charges now. So it collects the charges from here and pumps it back into the circuit. So that's how this steady current is maintained, right? What is this cell doing? It is actually applying a force, or it is, you can say, exerting a force to maintain mobility of electrons, right? Or charges. So that's why this, we can say, this is called source of electromotive force, that is EMF, electromotive force, which is actually being provided by this cell or battery. In the same chapter, we'll also study how this battery works, right? So that is electromotive force, or the source of electromotive force, which is a battery. So what is this electromotive force? Is it really a force, or what exactly is this? We'll see that as well. So in this battery, what happens? In a battery, there are two terminals. One is, say, negative terminal, and other is positive terminal. Okay, so due to their these cells, you must have seen there are chemicals loaded into that, and that's why they are also called chemical cells, electrochemical cells. And a certain chemical reaction goes inside this, and due to that, a force which is of non-electrostatic nature is exerted on the charges of the electrolyte. This force derives the positive charge towards the terminal, one of the terminal, and negative towards another terminal. So suppose if this is positive terminal A and this is negative terminal B. So some reaction takes place here. Due to those reactions, the electrolytes which is there here it will be full of electrolytes. So due to those electrolytes get attracted, or there is a force being set up there. Due to this, the positive electrolytes come here, negative comes here, and this plate becomes positive and negative. As the charges build up on these two terminals A and B, a potential difference, because now what happened? Now there is a charge built up which is done here. So due to this, there is a net positive and negative charge separation. So that means there will be a field, right? There is a charge separation. So there will be a field. And if there is a field, there will be some potential difference generated between these two. Right? So as I said, the charge is built up, and on the two terminals A and B, a potential difference is set up between them. An electric field is set up, which we know, and in the electrolyte from this A2, B. So there is an electric field in this direction, and there is a potential difference between these two. The field exerts a force on every charge which is here. So suppose if there is a charge here, say Q, so the Q will experience a force which will be equals to QE, which is in the direction opposite of electric field. Why? Because that charge is an electron, right? So the force will be exerted opposite direction of electric field. So in the steady state, the charges stop accumulating further and these forces will balance each other. So the work done is nothing but, suppose if this distance, now let this distance be d. So the work done in crossing this d will be equals to the force into displacement d, where d is the distance between two terminals A and B. Right? So total work done per unit charge, work done per unit charge will be what? Will be given by W divided by Q. So that is equals to F D divided by Q. Now this W by Q is represented as E or EMF. So EMF, here we have F represents force, but EMF is actually what? Work done per unit charge. That is nothing but potential. Right? Why? Because that is work divided by charge, and we know that that is potential. So EMF is actually what? This is actually potential. This is not force. Right? Now, suppose there is some potential difference between these two, that is V, then we know that V is equals to the work done divided by Q, which is equals to QV divided by, Q. And this V is called or represented by E or EMF. That is electromotive force. So we have force there, but that is not exactly force. That is actually work done per unit charge or the potential. Right? So because it is potential, so what will be its unit? Its unit will be, potential's unit is what? V, where V represents volt. So the unit is V. Okay, now there are two things. There is, so we said electromotive force is nothing but potential difference. But then why these two terms? So one term is electromotive force, that is EMF, and other term is potential difference. So we'll understand what is that. EMF is, connected to, or it is defined for a cell. That means if there is a cell and an outer circuit here, end to end, then from here to here, some work will be done. If a charge is moving from this point and coming back to this terminal, some work will be done. And that work done, that is from terminal to terminal in the complete circuit, that is work done divided by Q. That is called EMF. So EMF is the work done by a source in taking a unit charge once around the complete circuit. While potential difference is what? A part of circuit in which you just take 2 points. So it is huge circuit. We don't know where it starts or ends. Suppose this is a simple section of that. Then there is a point here E, there is a point here B, and then VAB is called the potential difference between these 2 points. So this is for, the main thing is this is work done for complete cycle. And this is related to 2 specific points only. So based on that 2 points, we will find this potential difference. So that's why this EMF is there. EMF is of cell. So it is there even if there is, if when it exists, even when the circuit is closed or when there is no current. Okay, or we can say that this is the maximum potential difference of a circuit. You find between 2 points, but this will always be the maximum. You keep on changing points, you find the potential difference, but between the 2 ends of the terminal, whatever the potential difference is, that will be the maximum, which is again, logical. So if you start from here to here, that is what EMF is, and that is the longest path in the circuit. So that's why the total energy consumed in this will be more. So work done will be more when you are traveling from, when a charge is traveling from one terminal of the battery to another. That is the complete circuit. Right? But potential difference will be there only if the circuit is closed, or when the circuit is, when there is a flow of current in the circuit. Then only if there is, if through 2 points current flows, then only there will be a potential difference. And in order for a current to flow, there must be a potential difference. So there must be potential difference between 2 points, and they must be connected. That is when current flows in a circuit between 2 points. Next is Ohm's law. So for this, I think you also have an experiment in your lab for Ohm's law. So what was done here was that there was a current and potential difference were plotted on a graph, right? So suppose this is V, that is for potential, and this is current. So when potential drop was more, or when potential difference was more, it was observed that the current is also more. So the graph which it comes here is actually like this. So you change the potential, you observe the current. So it was done like that, and it is observed that it is a straight line. So if it is a straight line, that means this I which depends on V, or V which depends on I, both are related, and this V is actually directly proportional to I. And later we said that this V is equals to IR. This is, you can say, representation of Ohm's law. This is the core of, or this is the Ohm's law, right? That is V is equals to I, and we have already seen that we use this to find, or to So all circuits, right? The same formula, V is equals to IR. Okay. Now if we have this graph, that is VI graph is like this. So we see that this is a straight line. So if it is a straight line, we say that this is a ohmic conductor, which follows Ohm's rule. So from this, there is one thing clear, that what is R? R is equals to V by I. So the resistance of a conductor is the property by virtue of which it opposes the flow of charges through it. So that property is called resistance. The more the resistance, less will be the current. So if you see here, R and I are inversely proportional. More resistance, less current. Less resistance, more current. Right? Okay, next, what is its unit? If we talk about resistance now, so what is the unit for resistance? So unit is actually 1 ohm, which is equals to, as you can see here, V by I. So 1 volt divided by 1 ampere, right? Or symbolically, 1 ohm is equals to 1 volt ampere. So this is about resistance. Okay, and it will be represented, I mean, we know how it is going to be represented. Next, it is factors affecting resistance. We'll try to understand this. One is length. Suppose this is the conductor, which is only this much long, and there is another similar conductor but of larger length. So who gives this resistance or the opposition? It is the internal atoms which are giving that. So now if I increase the length of the path, obviously what will happen? Now the resistance will be felt longer, or the opposition will be felt longer, or will be applied for longer length. So we say that this R is directly proportional to L. And just opposite in case of area. Of what? Area of cross section. So one small conductor or thin conductor like this, and another big conductor like this. Suppose their length is same. That is, we are interested only in this much length. So obviously from this you can see electron wants to flow from here to here. Now which path will have more opposition for that flow of electron? All obviously the thinner one. So thinner one means its area of cross section is less. This is the area of cross section, that is less. So we say that R is inversely proportional to area of cross section or thickness. And it also depends on the nature. So basically, if it is a conductor, it will have less resistance. If it is an insulator, it will have very, very high resistance. And if it is somewhere in between, having both, I mean, behaving like, conductivity also keeps on decreasing. So it also, we can also say that this also depends on the nature. So we say that R is equals to some constant into L divided by A. And what is that constant? That constant is equals to rho. And we will see what is rho. So for the time being, R is rho L by A, where A is the area of cross section. Now what is this rho? This rho is called resistivity. And we can now define this. How to define this? So R will be equals to rho when L is equals to 1 and A is also equals to 1. So at that time, R and rho are same. So what can we conclude about that here, about resistivity? Resistivity will be shown by this rho. So resistivity is the resistance per unit length per unit cross section. Or you take a sample whose length is 1 meter and whose area of cross section is equals to 1 meter square, and then the resistance offered by that is called resistivity. Right? So that is what resistivity is. And if you say this resistivity, we said you give me anything, you give me iron, you give me copper, you give me gold, doesn't matter. What I'll do, I'll take out a section of this which is 1 meter in length and 1 meter square in area, and then I'll find its resistance, and that resistance I'll call it as rho or resistivity. So rho or resistivity is independent of length and area. It depends only on material which we choose. Okay, so